and the beauty down the
This is Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's a feel-good Friday morning, 30th day in the month of August 2024, the last Friday in the month, the last working day in the month as well. And we're feeling good, we're feeling cool, we're feeling thankful to be here again, to have another day, another opportunity to get things done and make things happen as well. You're listening to The Smooth Breakfast. My name is Ayokunmi, and it's time to dive into the papers and take a look at the headlines that have people talking that are making the rounds. This is Freshly Pressed. It's an interactive session as always, so we're looking forward to you sharing your thoughts with us, coming through and let your feelings be known. And you can do that by sending your messages in to us on WhatsApp on 0809 440 981. 0809 440 981. That's the WhatsApp number. You can also catch us on YouTube, where we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. So come on, come all, and of course be a part of the conversation. And just to add really quickly, when you send those messages in, please try to keep them as short and concise as possible so that they're easy to read. And of course, I can get through as many of your thoughts as possible. Okay, so my analysts are in for the morning to break it all down and make sense of it all. Joseph Obari and of course Edi Bozimo are in today. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Great to have you on.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Happy Friday to everybody. Good morning, Joseph. Good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there.
Good morning, Ebi. Good morning, listeners. Ayo, nice to see you again. We're
nice
all here
as well. Oh yes, we are all here. We're all well, and we're ready to take a look at what's going on in the papers this morning. So many interesting stories that have been making the rounds. And Ebi, we will start in the Punch, where the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, that's the FCCPC, has given a 1-month moratorium to traders and other market stakeholders involved in exploitative pricing to crash the prices of goods. Now, this particular issue has been rumbling in the last couple of weeks or thereabouts. We've all been to the market at some point or another. We know how high prices are, and there's been this school of thoughts that a lot of traders, business people are intentionally jacking these prices up to a ridiculous level. And the FCCPC have given them a 1-month moratorium. Drop these prices to reasonable levels or face the consequences. Now, is this a good step in right direction? And is this 1 month adequate, inadequate? What do you think about this?
So the quick answer to this headline: FG gives traders 1 month to crash prices. My answer is, or what? Listen, the FG is actually approaching this from the wrong perspective. I am no stranger to these high prices, which I feel sometimes are exploitative. But prices are made up of a number of components economically. There's the cost of purchase, cost of transportation, cost of clearing and importing, cost of moving across the streets in Nigeria, cost of having stock, cost of running a generator. Then there is the element of greed. So there are many elements. But in an economy, people often have choices. It's one thing to threaten people to crash the prices of their goods. If, as often happens in the markets, they can tell you, if I show you my books, you might even feel sorry for me. They made an example at the end of a certain item called a Ninja. It's a kind of blender that is sold at a certain cost in Texas for $89, which would be the equivalent of 140,000 Naira here. But it is displayed for 944,999 Naira in a supermarket next to you there in VI. At the end of the day, people have the option of voting with their wallets and their feet. If you see something so preposterously priced, you can choose to ignore it, get an alternative, or use other means to blend your stuff. Do you realize that where I would like to hear FG saying, okay, if they can make it at $89, let's see how we can make it in Nigeria for $60. Let's push our manufacturing capacity. You are telling people, you are not talking about for some other goods, maybe food inflation. You're not talking about stopping situations where at every single checkpoint on Nigerian roads, police demand money from truckers. And that is also what adds to the cost of food items, admittedly in this case. So exploitative pricing means what exactly? A person can set a price, frankly, anywhere they want. There are certain shops that you and I do not enter because we already know that the prices in those shops are higher than our pocket comfort. But they have their clientele. And the same thing goes, rather than making threats like this, again, I'm not saying I want to be exploited, but fortunately, in an economy, in a country that has 220 odd million people and any number of millions of shops, both physical and virtual, I am actually faced with a plethora of options to choose from. I don't know that the FCCPC is going about this the right way. Perhaps what they should do is open portals where the alternative to that item can be seen for the 140,000 instead. And then that person setting that 944,000 will have it on his shelf till it breaks down into dust. I don't know that in a capitalist economy, you can dictate to people what their price should be. People will set prices to what the market. But the last interesting thing is nice to hear them comparing the price of something in Texas to the price in Nigeria. I would love to hear their voice on the income that people are earning in Texas versus the incomes people are earning in Nigeria. It's only good when they want to do negative comparisons. The price of petrol in Texas is so and so, so in Nigeria should be so and so. The income of a person in Texas is so and so. Why should the income of a person in Nigeria not be similar? My last word.
All right, Joseph, I know that you want to get some thoughts in on this one. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this might be just the reaction of a newly appointed executive vice chairman. And that's what I see. I think it's just it's like cyber rousing and just want to let people know I'm in the house. I'm raising my voice to say I'm a new man on board. I'm going to take action and so on and so forth. Just like a B said, when I read this story, I said, what are you going to do? But I remember that growing up as a child, my father was a trader and we were very familiar with what they call price control team. They used to go and we'd be in the market and price control will come. They'll try to check. And of course, what we do is quickly close our shops and then avoid goods being confiscated. So yeah, price control board existed at that time to ensure that people do not profiteer and just arbitrarily increase prices. In some jurisdictions, this happens. The government keeps a tight lead on prices, and it's important because it's an inflation control measure when it is done very well. But it makes no sense if you don't have a strategy. So what I expected new man to do is to sit down and think of a strategy that is workable, that is realistic, that is clear. And he knows if there are specific instances where things are being done wrong, like this example he has said, he should zero in on action, not come and tell us we are giving you moratorium and all those things. You just go and take action on that, or you engage the person, or bring the person to book by using the powers that are given to you as an agency of government. So, but I think all this is simply just, I'm new on board and I want you to notice that I'm here. Because we are even standard organization of Nigeria. They are not there. We don't feel them. The market is filled with substandard goods and so on. So we need to feel actions that benefit us and not just things that are done for show, that I think this is.
Action.
Fundamentally, they are saying we want Nigerians to be exploited for 1 more month at least. That doesn't make sense. If you've seen a flaw, plug it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's take a look at the story coming out of the Premium Times here, Joseph, and it has to do with doctors, the health sector. Now, the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare said on Thursday that it would invoke the no work, no pay rule against members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, as NARD, who are on strike over the abduction of one of their colleagues in Kaduna since December 2023. Now, the statement said, the ministry made a statement by its Assistant Director of Information and Public Relations, Ado Bako. Now, the statement expressed disappointment in the resident doctors for embarking on the 7-day warning strike, despite ongoing negotiations and efforts to actually address their concerns. They've had these concerns since December 2023. We are in August 2024. So, I mean, help us make sense of this one.
Well, okay, honestly, I don't understand this, because the truth simply is that the doctors are concerned. I think there are so many other issues that are not being put out in the public to start with. The struggle between Nigerian resident doctors and the federal government has been long-standing. It's been long-standing. In fact, this category of doctors are actually, they form the engine room of all public hospitals, because these are the people. What is residency? These are doctors, freshly minted doctors, who are understudying consultants and registrars, very experienced doctors, who they are the ones who do the grunt job. They are the ones who support the consultant surgeon when he's carrying out surgery and so on. In the process, they are perfecting their skills. And it's a period they also use to acquire postgraduate qualifications and so on. So it is a very critical period for them. One, in that they are perfecting their skills as doctors because they are doing more practical things. Two, they are larger in number than the senior ones, so they depend on them for much of the work that is done in public hospitals. And then, of course, they need all they can to be able to acquire the qualification to be able to specialize, because it is within these periods they choose their specialization. But one, either the environment in which they work is not conducive, the rewards they should get in terms of payments and so on, it's never sufficient. And then most importantly, they sometimes are left alone. Those critical things they need, like allowances for them to pay for their specialization exams and write fees and so on, they don't have them. So all those things are actually the cause of agitation between resident doctors and the federal government all the time. Now, added to this is that their colleague 8 months ago was kidnapped. And till today, she has not been released. Dr. Popola has not been released. Nobody knows her fate. And so out of concern, they are just saying, look, we cannot be working. We cannot say we are safe working as medical doctors when one of us, for 8 months, nothing is said about her. Nobody knows whether she's still alive. Now, does the federal government have the right to invoke the no work, no rule, no work, no pay rule? Yeah. Because it's stated in the industrial dispute processes that if negotiations are going on, the federal government can whip that. And they did it for ASU. They did it when ASU called out its members on strike. So it's within the remit of the federal government to call for such a rule. But the point is, are we addressing the key critical issues? And is it going to solve any problem? If the government decides to whip out this rule and not pay these doctors, and then they decide to continue the strike, what are we going to do? We already have a health system that is overburdened by fewer number of doctors per capita.
Right.
Most of who are leaving, jackpine doctors, are in this category. They are all leaving. When you antagonize them the more, they look for opportunities to leave. So I think the federal government will be wiser in trying to talk to them more than simply trying to threaten them. Because at the end of the day, it is the average person, the patient, and the families that bear the brunt of this. It's a matter of the grass suffering when two elephants are fighting.
All right, AB, really quickly.
Leaves our health sector in a very dire strait.
Just one sentence. This is the hallmark of an extremely tone-deaf administration. A person has been abducted. First of all, kudos to the doctors for having solidarity with one of their own. A person, one of them has been abducted, kidnapped. They are protesting that, and you whip out the threat of no work, no pay. Guess what? You are, like Joseph said, it's well within the right and remit of the government to threaten it, but you are not addressing the core thing. I expect to have press conferences about what's going on, excluding the security details. But somehow, 8 months, so it goes to the core of what is the value of a Nigerian life to those in authority.
Questions, more questions. We'll have more questions and hopefully more answers on the other side of this quick breather on Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Don't go anywhere. Nigeria.
Of course, government has the right to, invoke that. But
I
mean, in this kind of sensitive matter, you weigh your options.
Read the room.
Or you read the room exactly. I would say this is not the time to be saying that. Focus on the issues. Yes, you don't tell us what you're doing on a security basis. You may be underground things, but let people get a sense of reassurance that if any one of them, or in fact us, was abducted, somebody cares. 8 months, 4 months, 4 weeks a month. How many cups of tea have been drunk in FEC? What do they talk about?
That's the question. All right. You're welcome back to Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life on a feel-good Friday morning. My name is Ayokunmi Kekiriako. AB Bozimo and, of course, Joseph Obari are analyzing the stories with me this morning. Come through and share your thoughts with us on WhatsApp on 0809 4440981. Also join us on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Let me take some messages because, man, Lagos, Nigeria, the world, they have a lot to say about the issues this morning. I'll take some messages, but we'll get back into the stories. Tonya says, I have said repeatedly, government as an entity is immune, insulated, and isolated from the reality facing Nigerians. I blame the media first for staying in the room when the VC of the FCCPC made those completely ridiculous utterances. They should have walked out on general principle. Are traders not subject to realities? Thank you for that. Who was talking to us? Yemi from Marina says, I'm quite surprised at the price control tack by the government. The solution is quite simple. Remove all impediments between production and consumption and watch prices crash. Also, flood the markets with alternative products by opening our borders and watch prices fall. Thank you, Yemi, for that. God bless Nigeria. I will not read the rest of your message, but I get the point of what you're trying to say. Michael Onyeweke says, for FCCPC's threat is baseless. For instance, when a trader buys a basket of tomatoes from Mina, they have to pay through their noses to transport it to Mile 12. For importers, they pay excessive charges at the port, and the trucks that move the goods from the port to the warehouses also face a plethora of hurdles with payment implications along the way. Why can't the FCCPC influence the agencies responsible for removing these bottlenecks? I beg, make them shift. Okay. One more and we'll get back into the stories. Oluwaseyi says, demand drives supply. If there's enough supply of any particular commodity, the price drops. It's estimated that trucks carrying food from the north to Lagos, for example, pay between 750,000 naira to 1.2 million as bribes the police and other security agencies. Oluwaseyi, do you have a link to that particular story? I would love to see that for myself. Within Ogun State, it's the same thing with vehicles bringing farm produce from the rural areas. The government should check such illegalities of the people they employ. All right, let's get back into the stories, AB. And interesting one is coming up here, and this has to do with power. Now, the federal government has approved a 50% electricity subsidy for all public hospitals and public tertiary institutions, including universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education across the country. Now, this is off the back of a story that broke yesterday about EKDC disconnecting University of Lagos over debt. We know in July, University of Benin, there were issues between the school authorities, the power brokers, as it were, over bills and all that. So walk us through this one.
A few months ago, when this whole band A, band Z, and band No Lights came out, somebody made the back of the envelope calculation of how much an average hospital might be spending on electricity. And it was staggering. And, especially a public hospital where generally that's supposed to be part of the social contract between government and the people to be able to get fundamentals of healthcare and indeed the most excellent healthcare. I think there's a hospital in the US, John Hopkins, where the presidents go when they're ill. They don't come to Nigeria. They don't go to France. They don't go anywhere else. They stay in their country and go to their own public hospitals. Now, they're saying there will be a subsidy on electricity for these public. I think it's a good idea. What I hate in the story is that they said, according to the health minister, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has magnanimously approved. He's not magnanimous, he's practical. It makes sense to put a subsidy on things that affect the people directly. Because, for one thing, unlike when you're subsidizing fuel that somebody can smuggle out of the country, you cannot smuggle this electricity to somewhere else. You cannot smuggle it to your house. It will be, basically, the electricity will be priced at the correct price. Then there'll be a subsidy payment for it. That's a good thing. The second thing, as part of this, we should take the time to do energy audits at many of these institutions to reduce the sheer amount being consumed. Because, and then as people, we have to stop wasting power. You're driving out sometimes, on the rare occasion there's light, you see people's external lights on. People have lights on in rooms they're not occupying. We should, as a set of people, become more energy consumption conscious. But the bottom line is that I think it's a good idea. I am not impressed with the notion of magnanimity. It is practicality, and it is indeed serving the best interest of the people. But let me tell the part of the story that's irritating. It has been approved. The process of implementation is being developed.
Still being
very,
developed.
Very soon, meaning absolutely nothing. In Nigeria, very soon has zero meaning. It gives us nothing to peg our hopes on. It means that for the next 2 months, 2 weeks, or 2 years, if nothing happens, they will say it's still coming. So I need people to give us announcements, on one hand, with practical timelines. We can draw, and not the kind of timelines where the refinery has been postponed by 7 times, but timelines that we can hold on to.
Right. Thank you for that, AB. Joseph, let's take one more story here and take messages. There are a lot of messages lined up. I think the issues this morning have got people talking about. Okay, let's head to the Daily Trust, Joseph, and let's talk about this particular story here. Now, Nigerians paid 1.048 billion naira as ransom to kidnappers between July 2023 and June 2024, according to a report. Now, the report released yesterday by the SPM Intelligence showed that 7,568 people were kidnapped across the country within that period. Now, according to the reports released yesterday by the firm, though abductors have demanded for 11 billion naira as ransom within the period, only 1.048 billion has been paid. And that is as a result of the economic realities of Nigerians. Well, looking at these numbers, they make for very, very concerning reading, Joseph.
Joseph?
Are you there, Joseph?
No, when I read this story, I mean, just the hair. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me? All right. I was saying that when I read this story, the hairs on my hair stood up. Practically, I don't have hairs anyway, but they all stood up. The truth simply is it's scary. It's very scary that for every successful attempted kidnaps that happened, one Nigerian died. That's what the statistics actually shows. Forget about the figure, and the intelligence behind the report says only 1.something billion was paid. 1.something billion naira in an economy like this, not only, for goodness sake, it's a huge amount of money. And that this record, to have this, raises a lot of questions. Doesn't it suggest that actually you can find out where this money went, how it went, where it went, who took it? And it should lead to somewhere. So there is a whole lot that this story reveals that calls to question our determination to truly deal with this matter. If a private agency can come up with this data, what stops our own security agencies being able to work out things like this? I mean, it's just a whole lot of questions. So yeah, this statistics is put forward. What can we make of it? The interpretation for me as a layman on just reading this is staggering. That this number of Nigerians are kidnapped and over 1 billion paid in a matter of months. It's just so baffling. And then the government pretends that they don't know that ransom is being paid because they issue a statement and say it's an offense for anybody to pay ransom. Yet a private security agency is able to track all ransoms that have been what ransom. Are we serious? We're not, as a country, are we really serious? Is the government really serious? This is a private agency, a private organized firm that has such sensitive data and is able to tell us in details what's going on. And yet our security agencies claim that they don't know that ransoms are paid. In some cases, they claim they were those who worked out releases of those who came out of kidnappers' den. Now, come on, please.
Okay, AB, 30 seconds.
Just one thing, very quickly. Listen, this is what they have been able to estimate. Don't forget, some people are kidnapped, some people have to pay ransoms, and they are so traumatized by the whole thing, they don't even talk about it. Yeah. Arguably, this could be anything from 50 to 30% of what actually goes up. But the point is the insecurity that stalks us all. We live in permanent fear. Trust me, ordinary commute you are doing, you just don't know. And that's not a good environment for productive thinking and performance in Nigeria.
All right, let's take messages as we round up on Freshly Pressed. Uluwaseyi says, government isn't going to do anything to the doctors. It's an empty threat. We don't have enough doctors to be threatening the few we have, since the bad working conditions and the terrible economic situation is making them to flee the country. Government should act fast by improving their working conditions and get their colleague freed. Ajayi Oloniloa says, why issue an ultimatum to traders to crash prices of goods that in some cases are not available or goods on which traders have incurred high transportation and checkpoint extortions? It's a completely wrong approach. Toyosi says, in a free market economy like ours, the forces of supply and demand determine the prices of goods and services. How can government control prices being charged by manufacturers when the costs of the factors of production are very expensive? Price control cannot work. Let me see here. Who's talking to us? Let me see. Matthias from Agop Palace says, don't be moved by the price control news. It's a distraction. I repeat, it's a distraction from their field policies. Shift the blame on APC's well, not so great blueprints is what he's trying to say here. This is coming from, who is talking to me here? Adopsy, if I'm correct. I don't understand why these government officials keep blowing hot air and popping with ideas and examples that don't make sense. Blender in Texas. Have they even considered that the blender will require that import duty will be paid along with other charges? Nothing makes sense with this government, I beg. And he says, a summary of today's headlines is simply, all I want to say is that they don't, or rather have never cared about us, the people. Thank you for that. Tonya says, why has the FCCPC not ordered a 1 month reduction in fuel prices? Not sure it's the same thing there. Is it the same thing? But anyways, this is so typical. Instead of solving the actual problem, subsidy is thrown at it. Availability of electricity is the problem. If a hospital doesn't get enough electricity to start with, what's the point of a subsidy? Subsidizing zero has zero effect. And finally, Dami from Ikeja says, why do government officials believe in gaining talking points and press headlines more than doing the actual work? What authority will the FCCPC use to determine the price gouging? And yeah, I can squeeze one more. Just one more. Tobias says, the problem is that the average Nigerian doesn't even know what's going on. At the end of the quarter, Nigerians' customs will declare trillions of naira generated for government. This money from where and from who? Let me tell you. In April last year, $1 was equivalent to 500 naira. A 40-foot container flight from China was $3,400, but now it's about $10,000. Last year, April, to bring or to clear the same 40-foot container from Nigerian seaport was 5 million naira, but now you clear with 19 million naira. Okay, okay, thank you for your message, Tobias. I really have to wrap it up. Thank you so much, AB and Joseph. Those numbers absolutely ridiculous. We'll talk more about these as the days go by, but it's a pleasure having you on Freshly Pressed as always. Do have yourselves a great Friday.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you, Joseph. Happy Friday to all the wonderful listeners out there. Hit me up at AB Bozimo on all platforms.
You too. Always a pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you for all the messages. Keep it tuned. Smooth 98.1. Smooth Breakfast will continue. We'll take a walk into the locker room at 8:15. Press.